In our last discussion, Rashan, we were talking about the challenges of replacing that face-to-face interaction, which of course, in any environment is the best source of learning. In a tertiary situation, what kind of strategies do you see being employed to help facilitate that engagement at that level without having that face-to-face interaction?
Well, it's been a big challenge because a lot of people were used to that kinesthetic, relying on what we see and what we hear, especially with the students. So a technique that I employ kind of by accident, just because of sheer thinking from the student's point of view. If they're sitting on a laptop or a computer, some of them are on their phones listening to a lecture, how do we engage them? That's the way that I started to think, and I accidentally fell into some of the university guidelines that they actually told us to employ prior to actually being told what to do. So one of the best techniques is actually setting up the rules very clearly up front. So at the start of the lecture, we would say, make sure that you mute your microphones and you don't actually engage unless you have a question. If you have a question, feel free at any time to type into the chat box. Or some lecturers say, don't type it into the chat box, wait until the actual question time to type it in. Some students actually start to use the chat area as a socializing area, and they start to have their own little conversations. And the beautiful part that I found was students then pull them back themselves. I, as the lecturer, did not have to engage them or tell them what to do. But one of the best techniques that I found was reading their comments instantly. So you got to have your video, or if you're not having video, your chat box, and you're honestly on that the whole time. Whenever a student puts their question in, whether that's even a sarcastic comment or a joke, especially at a uni level, you get the whole spectrum. It was good to respond. So straight away, not every student is looking at the chat box. So you go, I just got a comment saying so-and-so, so-and-so, or XYZ asked a very good question here, and the answer to that is so-and-so. That helped a lot. And so setting up those guidelines up front and then making sure you're constantly on the chat area yourselves, it was one of the most fundamental tips and tricks that worked in engaging the students. Another one was when you would get them to do certain activities, there's going to be a silent bit of time period where you go and tell them it's 10 minutes on, and there's a clock timer on your screen and they can see that. One of the things is specifically repeating 3-4 times that, yep, time's about to start, go for it. I'm here, make sure that you ask any questions if you feel free. Because from the student's point of view, if they're hearing silence, they might think that your internet connection died, or you've actually left, or did their connection die. There's a whole array of problems that can go on in their mind, and they might just leave going, oh, hey, the lecturer's not there, or my teacher's gone. So one of the things was, when we asked them for feedback, one of the students suggested putting on music. And that was really good because it's something that they wanted to hear. They could then hear us being there, and it's music that they're going to like, that everyone can hear at the same time. So even though we're virtually speaking, you're still able to engage with them. And I asked them for song suggestions. And that helped a lot because everyone, while they're doing their activities, they started to actually list their favorite songs. Some were very inappropriate, some were not. And that's the beauty of it. So that actually happened while we were doing an activity for 10 minutes. And then by the end of that 10 minutes, when I told them to share their answers, all the comments started flooding in, which is great. That was only 29 students out of a 300 people lecture. But still, it's a form of engagement other than just droning on and speaking to a screen thinking that they're going to listen. Even if we're in that situation, we wouldn't listen. So we really have to think from their point of view.
And I really like the idea of using that chat window to engage with your students and giving them the ability to ask questions, because it brings about two things that we rely on in that real world environment. One is student ownership, so being able to own their place in the learning process. In a remote delivery situation where they aren't there, sometimes they don't feel that ownership. So giving them a voice and giving them ownership is really, really important.
Yeah.
And also the commenting on the little comments that appear, there's some accountability there, so they know that you're watching, they know that you're engaging with them, they know that you're looking for feedback.
Absolutely, and the beautiful part was whenever they even said something that wasn't necessarily applicable to the subject content, it was still part of the conversation. And one of the students, I remember asking me whether I knew a specific song that they suggested, and obviously it had nothing to do with design thinking, which was the lecture. And so I answered that straight away, going, read the comment, do you know this song, sir? Absolutely, we do know it, but it's not really applicable to here, but maybe we'll play it next time. If everyone in the lecture right now likes this particular comment, we'll play it next time. And the numbers for that comment started to go up, and out of the 29 students that turned up, we had about 21. And so following that, whenever it was a subject content question, all I did was ask them to support one another's comments, going, if this is the answer you had in your mind, make sure you give it a like. And so each answer, you'll usually get about 5, 6, 7 answers, which if you're looking at 30 students, is a relatively small amount. But even in a classroom setting, they're the hands that will go up.
That's right.
So, but this was a good opportunity for them to say, yeah, actually, that's what I was thinking. So the best answers actually started to get 10, 15 likes, which means that they're part of the conversation. They feel supported. In a classroom scenario, they wouldn't actually know that 15 other students like that same answer. So this is a good opportunity that you don't really see before. One of the last things that I wanted to mention was visually engaging them at their level. So using memes. I know memes can be a very questionable topic, but especially at a tertiary level, it's so much more engaging because they have fun doing it. They don't feel like they're sitting there listening to a lecture. I got comments when the memes came on about brainstorming. There was one that I used for SpongeBob SquarePants painting a rainbow saying brainstorming sessions. And instantly one comment going, ha, good meme. Or, yep, just little things, but they're on it. So it just helps them rather than just same old subject content. So it's thinking about what's more fun for them, what's visually and auditory engagement, which is the two forms that we can do because we can't physically connect with them or see or talk to them. That's been the biggest pointers for engagement.
That's fantastic. And there's some really, really good strategies that could be applied right across the board, right from the younger years right through in regards to getting that engagement and getting that feedback. And I think that common discourse throughout your entire conversation there around feedback, I think is really, really important because in a classroom environment, as we outlined, you've got that physical feedback where you can see the students and you can see what's happening and you can see that you can pick up those non-auditory cues. In a online environment that you don't have those same cues, so using that feedback loop in the form of a comment or in the form of the likes to enable to support each other and give them group ownership is a really important strategy, and that's fantastic.
Have you found any tips and tricks that works within a secondary environment?
See, the secondary environment's a little bit more challenging because you don't have the same level of voluntary engagement. So that's the first challenge. So they're there because they're enrolled, not because they choose in many cases. So that's the first hurdle. So you've got to sort of almost go to that next level of engagement. So really, how do you really reach out to those students? The other thing that leads from that then is you've got that attention span for a lot shorter time. So you've really got to break it down and be looking at 2 minutes. If you don't have a break every 2 minutes, you could pretty well be reasonably assured that you're going to lose a portion of your clientele or your students. So how do you do that? So things like using physical feedback loops, so the chat sessions is a feedback loop for tertiary, but the physical feedback loop, so if you're doing a recording of a lecture and the students are engaging with that, embedding it into a platform that enables you to make it interactive and have stimulus questions or activities built in that they can do, and then you can get feedback on after the recording is finished. So that you can monitor what portion is watched, whether they skipped or whether they watched the entire thing, and where their strengths and weaknesses were, so that you can then reinforce that learning through another opportunity. I think that is a really good way to do it. But I think the other really important thing at a secondary level is mixing it up. So providing a broad scale of opportunities for them to engage, whether that's a written task, whether that's getting them to prepare an audio response, getting them to do a presentation that they present back to the teacher, and based on a research task or a fact-finding mission, but I think looking at positioning all those in a journey, and I think that's the thing that keeps those secondary kids engaged. You start a unit of work or a snippet of what you're looking at with the idea that it's going to be a journey. You start here and you're moving them along. Now, whether that be a story, whether that be a project, whether that be a design brief, whether that be the generation of an ideation. So having that goal in mind, so you're always working towards something, that's the thing that's going to keep them engaged when they otherwise wouldn't be. And I think if you can keep the idea of that journey going, that's going to be the thing that's going to get them to come back and watch the next episode, come back and participate in the next activity, and give you that feedback and give you that opportunity to engage with your students.